So I think it's good for all parties involved. Also good for Shane Morris. I think you want to keep that character for him. You don't want to just, tell him, hey, you're just going to have to sit another year, and just have that be your mentality all summer. That's not going to get anybody anywhere. So I think it's good for all parties involved, and I think as long as they continue to head forward, it'll be beneficial.
Our guest here on Michigan Game Day this week is Michigan football beat writer Nick Baumgardner from Mlive as we discuss the spring practice and a few other items. Nick, after the spring game, I think for most of us it's easier to imagine the defense making great strides this fall. It looks like Coach Madison probably has more pieces to work with than he's had through his first 3 years here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're more athletic in a lot of spots, more explosive in a lot of spots, and I think above maybe anything else, I think he's got their attention again completely. In that, last year really wasn't good enough, especially at the end of the year. I think those guys know that, and I think Greg has been able to kind of, refocus them, kind of grab them in and say, look, that's not even remotely acceptable. Even though the offense was a mess at times, this defense should have been good enough to kind of carry them through some tough spots and win them some games. And I think that's and I think that's what's going to happen here again early in the season. I think you're going to have to almost allow this offense a little bit of time to sort of gel together. And with that, you have enough guys on defense, you have enough explosive players, you have enough guys with experience coming back, that your defense should be good enough to carry you through some rough offensive times and win you some football games. And I think that Madison, at this point, is maybe even putting that on their shoulders, saying, you need to be better. You need to help out the other side of the ball, make sure that they get enough time. Sort of what Michigan State was able to do last year, where their defense carried them early in the season. The offense figured it out eventually, and really no harm was done. So I think he's got their attention again. I think he's got a lot of experience back. They made some adjustments. At linebacker there, Jake Ryan's in the middle. I think they were excited about how that worked out. I think that the defensive line, I think they're excited about what Frank Clark might be able to do. Some of the guys inside are more explosive. So, and they still haven't brought in Peppers yet either. So once he gets here, that'll change a lot in the secondary. I think Greg Madison wants to be more aggressive this year. They want to be similar to what they were in 2011, which was a team that blitzed a lot, and they played a lot of press stuff outside and kind of forced the issue. They've said they wanted to do that for the last couple of years. I think this year, watching the spring game, they played a ton of press coverage, and even if guys got burnt, they got burnt, whatever. They still sent some basic pressure packages, and it seemed to work. So I think that's going to be the goal, or that's going to be the attitude going into it, that they're going to be the team that punches first instead of sits back and waits for somebody to hit them, and I think that's beneficial. We'll just see how it pans out.
Well, Nick, even though Dave Brandon and the athletic department put on what's really a fun, fan-friendly day that happens to include a football practice, when the sun set on the Big House and spring practice concluded a week ago, I think it's fair to say most of us still really have no idea what we're going to get in the way of a finished product this fall, do we?
No, it's just too hard to gauge it at this point. I mean, there's too many unanswered questions. The offense, the line itself. I mean, that holds the key to everything. I mean, if they can't make a giant leap throughout the summer and throughout the fall, and at some point just become a group that can start pushing people around and move the football, then the offense is really going to struggle. I don't know if it'll be as bad as it was last year as far as, you're gaining negative 28 yards or 55 yards. I don't know if it'll ever be that bad again. But, but if it's not a threat, then obviously you're going to have some situations and some issues. So we don't know there, what kind of quarterback is Devin Gardner going to be. If he indeed finishes this off and wins the job, is he going to finally get rid of those little mistakes that end up costing you football games? And is he going to play like he did, at the end of the season against Ohio State for a full year? We don't know that yet. We also don't know about the defense. We've liked what we've seen, I guess, to a degree, from their progress. I mean, it's been positive for them. Like what they're saying, that's been positive for them. But we'll have to see it. They'll have to do it for 12 games, and you're just going to have playmakers step up and start making plays. You look back at Hope's first season here that was very successful. You had guys like Merton that just made plays every game all year long. Ryan Van Bergen made plays every game all year long. Those guys just made plays every Saturday. Even if it wasn't perfect, guys like that made enough plays to win football games. And the last 2 years, other than Denard before he got hurt, we haven't seen anybody do that. So maybe Jake Ryan to a degree, but that's about it. No one else has stepped up and really just taken a game by the throat and won it for Michigan, and that hasn't happened in a long time. And guys are going to have to just basically grow up. I mean, that's the end of the day deal here, is that the youth on this team has to just turn into football players. You can't keep calling them young guys anymore. They have to grow up and be real players. talent-wise would say that they can be. They just have to go out and do it, and that's why we don't know yet. We have to wait and see on a lot of guys. If everything clicks, this could be a really, really good football team. If not, they could struggle quite a bit. So it's all up in the air right now.
And I think for all of those reasons, a lot of the fans, especially after the last 2 years, are really uneasy. But do you sense any urgency from Brady and his staff? And I know you had more access to them this spring, but any more urgency in getting this thing back on track this season?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think that, we can sit there and overanalyze the Borges firing all we want, but the fact that it happened, the fact that you removed your offensive coordinator, brought in a new offensive coordinator to fix what was wrong, was step one. Step two is that you completely shuffled your entire defensive staff. They didn't let anybody go, but you changed responsibilities all across the board. They moved guys. They took guys from defense and moved them to offense. They've moved guys. They've moved positions. They've done a lot of things, whatever they can, to try and make this thing work. I mean, I think there's a huge sense of urgency, within the staff. Now, I don't know if that sense of urgency is we're fighting for our jobs here. I don't know if that's quite where he's at, because I don't think that Dave Brandon has come out and said that needs to be something that anyone's thinking about. But at the end of the day, they did go 7-6 at Michigan, which is just wholly unacceptable with the amount of resources and money this place has and everything that they put into this program. So I think that there is a huge sense of urgency with Hope and his staff. I think they're trying to push that into the players and saying, 7-6, 8-5 isn't good enough. The fact that they haven't won a Big Ten title in a decade isn't good enough. There's just Michigan football hasn't been good enough in a long time, and I think that's caught up with this staff. I think that they have had a sense of urgency. I think guys are on their toes a little bit more, and they're not as comfortable. I think in 2012 they were pretty comfortable, if we're going to be honest and look back on it. 2011 went better than anybody thought it would. And I think a lot of guys were pretty comfortable in 2012. I think they were even comfortable last year. I don't sense that this year. I sense it feels a little bit more like the 2011 off season a little bit, where nothing's really good enough, and they're focusing on the little things day in and day out, even if that sounds boring. They have a long way to go, and guys aren't admitting anything else. So it sounds a little bit like that year, but we'll see if it plays out that way as well.
In the meantime, Sunday in Mlive, you did a story regarding the Michigan student government releasing their report on how the university handled its new student sexual misconduct policy. Since the Brendan Gibbons story first broke, it seemed to simmer below the surface after it initially broke. Is this story, though, about to maybe break into something much bigger?
I don't know. The U.S. Department of Education's Student Affairs Board, whatever it is, I'm not sure the exact title, they're doing an investigation this week similar to what the student government did, looking at, and this is a nationwide thing. They're doing this at a lot of schools, looking at how they investigated sexual misconduct policies and all those types of things. I'm not real sure. They won't release details on the case. We've asked numerous times, and they've stood behind federal student privacy laws on that. So my take from the football side of things has always been, a lot of this to me is still a university issue, and that was some of the story last night, which was that the student government board had found that the university's handling of this case, which seemed to take forever, far too long, seemed to be sort of a norm, in that they didn't have enough people on staff to kind of handle these types of complaints from sexual misconduct. So I think that was the crux of their report. They also found, from what they're suggesting, or their evidence suggests, that Brady Hoke was aware of the investigation into this in August. He was aware. He would have been aware, based on their evidence, in November, when the board found that Gibbons was responsible for the situation. Then he would have also been aware in December, when they finally made their ruling and said that he was expelled. So that his comments about a family matter or family issue, whatever it was, in Arizona were basically, you could construe them as false. If you wanted to play the other side of it, you could say he was dealing with a family matter, and that was his expulsion. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say, unless something comes up that says that the university tampered with something or tried to cover something up, which hasn't really been claimed at this point, or accused, or no one's accused that of anyone really at this point yet. So unless that happens, I don't know how much larger it can get. I think what the good thing here, if there is a good thing in it, is that it's caused awareness to what seemed to be a broken policy. The university now, it seems to be anyway, taking strides toward kind of fixing that and making this kind of an easier thing to handle campus-wide, not just in athletics, but across campus in general, which, if there's a positive you take out of it, it's that that was kind of brought to light. And maybe that'll change things going forward. If something else like this happens again, then it won't happen again, I guess.
If there's a negative, it's that the university, as far as publicity and the athletic department, I mean, this is not what they would like. But it doesn't seem like it's a story that's going to go away anytime soon, does it?
No, it's not. It's definitely not going to go away. I mean, it wasn't going to go away. 2 weeks after the whole thing was announced or broke, and I think the Daily wrote it in January. So. No, I mean this is a situation that wasn't good. It's a bad deal for everyone involved, obviously, and whenever this sort of thing happens, it's just not. You can't just hide behind it, bury your head in sand, and hope that it just passes on down the river. I mean, things are going to happen. Things are going to come out. It's not going to go away. At some point we'll have what we have, and we'll know what we know, and that'll be that. But we're not quite there yet, and I guess until we get to that point, until this information is at least found to a point where we can say without too much hesitation, here's what happened, here's who knew, and here's who did what about it, then that'll be that. But right now it's still way too much of it's still unknown, I guess, to make too many sweeping judgments on it.
Now we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out, as with many things.
Mm-hmm.
One final question for you, Nick. I want you to put your old basketball beat writer hat on for just a moment. Waiting for announcements from Nick Stauskas, Mitch McGarry, Glenn Robinson III regarding their NBA futures. John Horford caught, I think, some of us by surprise with his transfer announcement. So all of a sudden, if all of those things happen, well, we know John's gone, but if all three of the other guys go, all of a sudden we're looking at a very different and even younger team than we thought Michigan would field next season, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it was a similar situation to last year. I guess Robinson and McGarry had stayed. I do think that they're in a better spot, though, now than they were. I think that, let's say, just for the sake of argument, that all three of those sophomores leave, Stauskas, McGarry, and Robinson. That still leaves you with, and the fact that John is gone as well, doesn't help anything, but that still leaves you with Karis LeVert, Derek Walton, and Zach Irvin as a core of your team. I think all three of those players, given a strong offseason, which we saw what Karis was able to do last offseason, I can't imagine what they'll be able to do again. I mean, I'm sure he can make another leap there, and I'm sure Derek Walton and Zach Irvin can make even bigger leaps from year one to year two. So, given the track record Beeline's had with taking guys as freshmen and turning them into much, much better players as sophomores, I think that you've got a lot of talent in those three guys to have a very, very effective offense. The one, I guess, biggest concern to me would be if all three of those guys leave, you've lost John Horford now, and you've lost depth in the middle. You're going to have to ask Mark Donnell to play an awful lot as a redshirt freshman, and really, I think you might even have to go and at least look at maybe adding someone late, or maybe even adding a grad transfer or something like that if indeed Mitch decides to leave, because your depth there would be Mark Donnell, Max Bielfeldt, and then Ricky Doyle would be an incoming freshman who, by all accounts that I've heard, probably needs a redshirt year himself. So you're going to, if Mitch does in fact go, you probably are going to have to add somebody in the middle for further depth's sake. But at the same time, I don't think it'd be a disaster. I think this will still be a quality team. I think it still would be a tournament team, and one that maybe not pushing for a Big Ten title, but I think a team that could certainly be in the tournament and certainly win a few games in the tournament, given how Beeline coaches offense.
Well, it'll certainly help that if the three sophomores go, and again, we know John's gone, the fact that the team gets to go to Europe this year and gets, I think, 10 extra practices in. Yeah, that will help greatly, too. Yeah,
that'd be huge. I mean, especially for a guy like Donnell, I think, and even maybe Zach Irvin, guys that are in different roles. I think they go over there and I think they even play pro teams. So I think they play real competition over there on these European trips. I think they play 10 games or something like that over there. So I think that'd be gigantic for them, especially at this time. If they lost all those guys and had new guys coming in, that would be a huge, huge benefit and a huge head start, and one that would come at a perfect time.
Our guest here on our Michigan Game Day segment this week has been Michigan football beat writer Nick Baumgardner from Mlive. And Nick, I'm sure there'll be news popping up before summer practice starts in August, so as always, we appreciate the time you take, and we will get back to you if there's anything we need to talk about.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
We received a fan feedback call this week from Don Catrell, who is a big Michigan fan living down in the Cincinnati area. He has some thoughts on Coach Brady Hope and the handling of the Brendan Gibbons affair.
Hi, Mike. This is Don Catrell, actually out of Williamsburg, Ohio. I do have a YouTube channel. It's called the Don Catrell Report, Katrell. And basically, I have been a Michigan fan all my life. Here's the deal. I think there's some stuff going on there in the